All right, I know it's been a long time since we have a What We Learned video, so we're going to give this one a shot. It's mostly going to be some review of things that you've seen before. We're going to do a top 5 most unused features in Google, and we're going to talk a little bit about ChatGBT, the chatbot you've probably heard about in the news, and a couple other things real quick. However, before we get started, just wanted to let you know the reason for the lack of videos is for a brief while, Google's given us a break and hasn't made a lot of changes to their products. And so we haven't had any new features to share with you. That's still the case, but we're going to recap some oldies but goodies and add in a few new things for you this week. All right, first up in our recap of things that we've talked about before is EdLaw 2D. There's been some recent changes at Shen to EdLaw 2D, and so I wanted to bring you back to the beginning. So if you go to the website up here on the screen, bit.ly/Shen EdLaw 2D, that's bit.ly/Shen EdLaw 2D. That'll take you to the page where, as a teacher/employee, you can find out the 2D compliance status of a piece of software. Remember, in most cases, if it's for teachers, it's EdLaw 2D compliant. If it's student use and student data that we're trying to protect. So what we're going to do is we're going to come in here. I'm going to turn off that little banner there. And then we're going to show you this page. So when you load this page, it has a database down here that you can search by multiple criteria to find out if something is compliant or not compliant. The instructions down here at the bottom are really for administrators on how to add something to the compliance list and how to get the proper paperwork filled out by the vendors and by the district. So up here at the top, as a teacher or staff member, you're going to type in the product you want. Since I'm using Link Video right now, I'm going to type that one in. Okay, and what you can see is as soon as you type the name of the application in here, it filters down and gives you its compliant status right there. If you want to see everything that's compliant, instead of typing in a name, you can just click into this 2D status and say, what is 2D compliant, which currently is 210 different applications. What that means is Shenendahoa has signed a data privacy agreement with 210 separate entities, or BOCES if we purchase the software through them, has signed a data privacy agreement with that company. For something to be 2D compliant at Shen, it has to have an agreement with Shen. It doesn't matter if their normal policies are that they protect data in this way, they still have to sign that document. And that's where the delay sometimes occurs, is us finding out that something's being used by you, number one, and then number two, getting a required document signed by them with lawyers getting involved. So again, if you want to check on compliance status, you're just going to type in the name of the product here, or you can click here. If you want to see companies that specifically had said to us they won't sign a 2D agreement, and so they're definitely not 2D compliant, you can click on that, and you can see this is the list of ones that in the past have told us they will not sign it. Now, occasionally we do go back and check up on some of these. Like right now, we're trying to get another one with Pixlr because they've changed their policies. So we'll see. But these are ones that specifically have said to us, no, we can't sign your data privacy agreement. Okay, so that's a little recap of where you go to find whether something is EdLaw 2D compliant. And again, that is bit.ly/Shen EdLaw 2D. Okay, so want to find out something is compliant, go there. If you're getting a pop-up in the upper right-hand corner that says, notify the data security team because the application you're trying to use is not 2D compliant, it's probably because you're trying to use the sign in with Google button. And that button we cannot control separately for staff and for students. So sometimes it's turned off for staff, even though they can use the application, because we can't let students use it. If that's the case, you can send an email to the data security team, and there's a couple different ways we can approach it. From your own perspective, if you're getting that message, the easiest way for you as a teacher to get around it is simply to click the forgot my password, and instead of using the sign in with Google button, manually sign in and manually type in your password, and it will allow you in. It's only the button that's been disabled, but you'd have to reset your password in order to manually sign in. Okay, but again, click on that little email link in that pop-up and send a message to DST about how you use it and what it's used for, and then we can look and see if there's a way we can get it unblocked for teachers but not for students. Thanks. That's EdLaw 2D. All right, this is tip number 5 for most unused features of Google that are really cool. So if you have a presentation, a document, a Google slide, any Google Workspace file that you want to share with other people and you want them to be able to make changes to it, but not to the original, you can always tell them, hey, I'm giving you view rights to this and I want you to make a copy of it. Okay, that obviously causes some problems on the back end. So there is an easier way. What you do is you take this address here, and at the very end of it, it's going to say edit and a whole bunch of stuff. You're just going to chop that edit piece off and replace it with the word copy. Now, when you send this link to them, either in an email or however you're distributing it, when they click that link, a box will pop up saying, do you want to make a copy of this presentation? They'll say yes. It'll go into their Google Drive, and they can make whatever changes they want to it at that point. So the quickest, easiest way to share a file with other people in Google, but have them make their own copy of it, is simply to change the address up here. Take the edit off, replace it with copy, then copy this whole address and send it to them. All right, tip number 4. This is the shared with me section of my Google Drive, and people complain every week about, I can't organize this, I can't find stuff in it. You're not supposed to. It's not your stuff. It's stuff that's shared with you. The only things that show up in here are things that are shared with less than 100 people. So if it's shared with list Shen, it's not going to show up in here anyway. So how do I pluck these things out of shared with me so that I can organize them over in my drive? Because notice, shared with me, my drive, 2 different things. So how do I do that? So we simply right click on it, and then we have 2 options. Well, we actually have 3 options, but only 2 we're seriously going to consider. One is we can add it to our starred, and then they'll be in this starred folder for us when we want them there. If it's something you're going to temporarily use, and you don't need to permanently organize it or permanently put it into your My Drive, starred is a quick way to do it, and then when you're done, you unstar it, and it just goes back into shared with me wherever it happens to be at the time. The other way to do it is add a shortcut to your drive. So that's what I'm going to choose now. You'll see this particular one has a regular icon here right now when it's in shared with me. After I add a shortcut to my drive and I go over there, you'll notice that the icon now looks different. It has a little arrow on it. That's because this is a shortcut. I don't own this file. It's not my file. As soon as the original person who shared it with me stops sharing it with me, it'll disappear. Or if they leave the district, it'll disappear. So I now need to put this into one of my folders to organize it so that I can find it in the future. Okay, so it's just a shortcut to that original file that was shared with you. That's number 4. All right, number 3 on our list, how to quickly show someone's availability in Calendar. So if you have your calendar open, doesn't matter how many of them you have checked, what you do is you simply come up here to this Meet With box and you search and you type in a name. So we'll go with Dr. Wood. And when I click on that, her availability shows, or actually where she's busy shows, and her availability is what's left. So any person that makes their calendar, which is the default setting, viewable but only show free or busy, will then show up on your calendar. So if I went with Vicky, like that, again, you can see it fills it up. You can also type more than one person in here. All right, this one is number 2. So what you're seeing here is Google Gmail, but we're on specifically the chat section. One of the nice things about chat is you can quickly have conversations with groups of people or individuals, and it keeps that in here so you can refer back to earlier conversations. It's nice and compact and neat, and you can actually search through those conversations using the search button up here. You can see that this person is currently set to away, which means they're not online and I can't chat with them in real time. Sort of like an instant messenger feature. You can see down here that Becky Carmen is available and I could chat with her if I want. And then you have people who have set themselves to, they're online, but they're not really accepting chats right now. So you get different symbols. Okay, so you can quickly see who's available to you. Lucas LeBar down here is available to me. People only appear in this list once you try to have a chat with them. You can also control your chat status up here by going to where it says active, clicking the down arrow, and you can set yourself to do not disturb or away. And you can add a status message for people. So saying I'll be back at 1, and then they'll know that they'll be able to chat with you. It's just a little different than email. It's a little quicker for the back and forths. You don't have to send an email and then wait for another email and then send an email. It kind of all goes in one conversation. So that's the Google Chat feature in Gmail. Right, this is the #1 most underutilized Google feature at Shen, and it's a feature called Share Drives in your Google Drive. We're all aware of My Drive and that you put things in there and that you can share anything in your drive, a folder or files, with other people. The problem with sharing from My Drive is that when you leave Shenendahowa, about 30 days after that, everything that was yours in Google Drive, whether it was shared with other people or not, disappears from the system because you were the owner of them. So to get around that, Google added a feature a while back called shared drives. These shared drives are not owned by you. They're owned by that group of people or by the district. And so when a new shared drive is created, you actually select which people have access to. I'm going to open up my instructional technology one, which is our instructional technology team. You can see there are 10 people that have access. I'm clicking on them, and then there they are. So what you can then do with these 10 people is you can place anything you want in there, and it takes ownership away from you and gives it to that instructional technology team or whatever shared drive name you create. So it's really an institutional way of keeping documents, paperwork, procedures that you need to use as a department or an office all in one place. And then no matter who leaves or switches job positions, all of that stuff still stays there without any transferring having to happen. And then a new person can simply be added to that group of people and then have access to all of those materials for that position or job that they are doing. So shared drives at Shen should be a real big deal. Every office or department should have one with as many subfolders as needed to differentiate things out. All right, if you're not familiar with ChatGBT, it's something that's been in the news lately. It's a tool where users can type in a prompt or a couple sentences of text, and an artificial intelligence, that's actually machine learning, will then take your question and give you back a response written in the style or the way that you like. At Shen right now, for students, this website is blocked. We don't have a data privacy agreement with them, so even if you wanted to use it with students, you couldn't currently. It is not blocked for teachers. However, the sign in with Google button won't work on ChatGPT. You'll have to manually sign in. You can use your Shen Schools account or your home Gmail account, doesn't matter, but you have to actually manually type that in and manually type in your password. You can't use the sign in with Google button. So what does ChatGPT exactly do? Well, we're going to give it a prompt here, and we're going to see how it handles that. I'm going to do a fairly fancy one. I'm going to say, write me a fairy tale about Shenendahowa Central Schools and use the administrators as characters. All right, so I've asked it for a biography of George Washington. The AI is currently thinking. It's actually checking its sources. One of the interesting things about this ChatGPT bot is that its data only goes up to 2021. So if you ask it a question that would require it to know something that's more recent, it won't be able to. That's also a way of engineering your question so that the students couldn't use ChatGPT to produce an answer. They also have the company that makes ChatGPT, and OpenAI is the name of the company. They have a tool now that they just released yesterday that is fairly good at detecting writing that's done by a bot. So you can always try that tool too if you think a student's writing is not theirs. So you can see it's giving us a biography of George Washington right here. You can tell it to give you an outline. You can tell it to make a poem. Almost any form of writing work. Right? So that you'll notice that the paragraphs that ChatGPT puts out sometimes are not completely accurate. We also have a whole slideshow for teachers on ways to write things so that students either can't use ChatGPT or are actually asked to use it and think creatively in terms of their responses. You can reach that presentation, which is actually a half-day class, by going to bit.ly/Shen Teaching with AI, TW